Hello traders and welcome to the weekly outlook and setups volume 150. What a beautiful, nice round number. It's Iliya here, and as always, I'm really happy to welcome you on the Fanatic channel. As you know, in this video, we're gonna have a look at the market, how it developed this week, what opportunities did we have, and what we can potentially expect for the upcoming week. For this one, I spotted that the rhythm of the market changed a little bit, and of course, according to your strategy, you might not have gotten a lot of entries. It was a little bit erratic. Every single morning we were like, there weren't any clear zones to trade from. According to me, the direction was a little bit tricky as well. But I do think right now at the end of the week, we can draw a conclusion of what happened this week and what we can potentially expect for the upcoming week as well. This week, again, as I told you, I was feeling kind of out of the market, so I did not trade much. I'm actually having a losing week. I only took 2 trades. One was a full loss on a Monday, and then I took very little loss on Thursday, right, which was half risk, even less than half risk. So I'm pretty kind of conservative this week. I spotted that there weren't many great opportunities. Of course, there were some huge moves to catch, but provided in a slightly different manner. So of course, hopefully you had a great week, and if not, let's go back to it, learn what we can do from it, and acknowledge that not every week is going to be an amazing one. Personally, I had an amazing 3 weeks. The previous kind of 3 weeks, so I'm pretty happy for that. So of course it's time to kind of slow down a little bit, right? Take a little break of the equity curve as well, create a little bit of a higher low, and then potentially to continue higher. All right, so without further ado, of course, if you're new to the channel, make sure you're subscribed and turn on the notification bell in order not to miss any future videos that I publish. And if you are already subscribed, then let's head for the analysis. Alright, and before we start with the dollar, shout out to an amazing broker that is Forex.com. It is great. It has all the assets that you wish to trade. It also has amazing spreads, and they have a no commission account. But I picked their eco account. You pay a little bit of commission right there, but every single lot that you trade will go towards planting 10 trees. I really support them on this initiative. They're also following up on their process on their website. So link is down in the description. Go check them out and register with them. All right. So into the dollar, well, pretty much we can see that we're having a bearish engulfing candle on the weekly time frame, which signifies that some selling pressure is entering and that we might be potentially about to initiate a pullback after, what is it, around 6 weeks of bullish price action, right? And that was actually quite a huge move, starting from right there around 97 all the way towards 105, right? So that is it 700 or 7,000? I don't know, but that is quite a big percentage increase as well for the dollar, right? Of course, right now, this bearish pressure is probably introduced by the ECB unofficially. I think it's more of a rumor right now, stating that they're also going to hike their rates, right? Because right now inflation is becoming a real thing. Inflation hasn't been that high in years, so there is a lot of worry about the economy collapsing, right? And right now it's the job of the Fed, of the ECB, to potentially kind of save the economy. And they were looking for what was it called, like a soft landing, right, in order to tackle those issues in a soft manner. But no, we either have to have short-term pain, which means like hiking the rates really aggressively and causing the market to tumble a little bit, and mortgages and all that stuff to raise, or we are risking to get into a recession. A lot of speeches right now about stagflation as well, which is a combination of course, a recession and high inflation, which is not very good. And currently, of course, we're having a lot of volatility, especially across the stock or the equity market, the stock market, the indices, of course. And the cryptos are kind of starting to slow down a little bit. And of course, currencies are kind of a little bit moving up, moving down, moving up, moving down, right? After the announcement of the euro, which we're going to have a look at, it's massively exploded into the highs all of a sudden. The XY falls, then on the next day we fall. So of course, it's kind of a little bit tricky. And depending on your style, I think you might have not gotten a lot of perfect entries this week, right? But of course, let's carry on and let's see what we can potentially expect. I pretty much think that our analysis could be simple. After seeing this bearish engulfing candle, I feel more confident to actually say that could be that we are reaching a high and we are about to pull back. And of course, as I draw my ranges every single week, there is our range from the low to the high. This is on the weekly. And potentially, I would love to see a retest of this zone right there, which is pretty much, we're going to see it on a lower time frame potentially. This could be a nice higher low demand. And yeah, just to pull back towards the 50%, maybe 101.50 will be a level that I really would like to see before potentially then seeing it continue higher. All right, but this is more of a higher time frame analysis, which of course we do not have much control over. It's much better to look a little bit on the short term to really determine, okay, where could the market go this week, right? And if we ask the question, where do we expect the market to go this week? Well, I would expect for it to be bearish, right? So probably we can start with a little bit of bullishness to the upside to create the wick and then potentially to expand lower. So how much are we going to expand? This is out of our control. We don't know, right? But if we expect the market to go bearish this week, then we can potentially try to wait for the weekly high Monday, Tuesday, and then see if we can actually get a bearish reversal, right? On the daily, we are kind of still bullish, right? We started with this massive pump into the highs. We pulled back very aggressively. So I also want you to pay attention to the candles, right? So if we have a look right there, the candles were kind of meh, right? Wick, wick, inside bar, wick. Then we strongly pushed into the highs, immediately rejected. And then we have 3 massive candles to the downside, right? Compare these candles to the candles that pushed higher, and you can see that something is going on. And we also have a textbook manipulation, right? Range, manipulation, and initiation lower. So this could be what is happening. We also have it on EU, and it's better seen on the 4-hourly time frame. So again, you can see the range, sharp initiation higher, and then right now we actually have a confirmed trend. So what do I mean by confirmed trend? I have been mentioning this in quite a few of my past videos. So pretty much if we have a higher high and then the last higher low breaks, well, this is of course the first sign of trend change. So this is where we have this first level break, but of course then we can have this as well, right? But if we have a pullback and then a new structure break, which we have right there, then this confirms potentially that the market is entering a bearish trend, which is very good because we have it right now on the dollar and it's actually pretty clean, right? You can see right there on the 17th of May, we just massively expanded to the downside, broke the structure. Then we had a very corrective pullback. Again, monitor the candles. We have 1, 2, 3 candles to the downside, maybe 5 with those kind of 2 indecisions right there. And then we have a very kind of slow pullback, very nice pulling back towards the 50%, as you can see. And then look, 2 candles, boom, massive, right? So those 2 candles stopped right there. This is demand zone, but this demand zone is a catalyst for a pullback, as we call it in the community. Pretty much this is a demand zone on the left that is going to cause the market to stop, to pull back. But again, this does not mean that we are going north from here. This pretty much means, and you can see already that we're potentially about to pull back and then flush. So my analysis is pretty simple, and I really hope it plays out because it looks actually pretty good to be true. If we just zoom in, again, as I told you, we're having a confirmed trend to the downside. We have a very nice push to the downside. The market is very corrective right now. We can, of course, drop a range. We haven't yet tapped towards 50%. This is my major lower high. If the market, I do not expect the market to pull back towards this level, but if we start with a bullish leg like this, then I'm only gonna potentially focus to see the market reverse lower and start taking shorts. Okay. And of course, the first target, if this level right there fails to reverse the market like this, then this one is going to become a potential liquidity area. And I do think that we can break this one. And then of course, next targets could be around 101.50, as I told you. Okay. So this is pretty much my bias for the DXY. It looks really good. So let's see. Of course, it's possible for us to start plummeting from there because we are already tapping into a little bit of a supply zone. Right there, you can see we tapped and we're kind of shifting right now. Already on the 15-minute, we might be shifting. And we have that same situation that we have on the 4H, range, manipulation, and push. So what I also spotted is that this week we had a lot of aggressive entries. So the market kind of tapped into a zone and just plummeted without providing a confirmation, right? So this, which is when you might not get your textbook entries. But of course, to keep it simple and straight to the point, I would expect the market to start bullish, which would be lovely, and then potentially look for shorts. And if we start bearish with some very nice momentum, then I'm just going to follow this momentum and trust that the market is going to go lower. Of course, those are my 2 scenarios. Let's see how the market opens and make sure to stay tuned for the flow with the market Tuesdays. Let's have a look at EU. So starting from the weekly time frame, similarly to the Dixie, we are having a bullish candle. It's not really an engulf, right? The engulf happened on the body, right? So we engulfed the body, but not the whole candle, which again, it's not very nice. But of course, we can expect for the next week. If you again ask the question, where do we expect for the market to go next week? Well, I would say bullish, right? I would love to see it come towards this level right here, which is a weekly zone. And if I just zoom out a little bit, we can see that this market came very close to actually breaking out the low, right? If I take a rate, this is the lowest point from 2017. We came super close, right? Super close. And right now we are just potentially reacting from this little supportive level, right? And again, I think it's a catalyst for a pullback. So we're right now pulling back to come back into 50% potentially, and then to maybe just head to the downside and crush this 103.50 level, right? So again, I would expect, and I'm calling potential longs this week. Again, am I correct? Well, maybe not, right? I would expect this level to break right there because it's a very nice liquidity point, and we're pretty much what we had. So on the daily, it's a little bit tricky to draw a range, because you would draw it like this, and this is where I do think I also got tricked by this, and a lot of you guys might go tricky, is that on the fall we had this beautiful push to the downside, and yes, I was looking for shorts overall until I saw this bullish pressure and then this retest where there was a nice long, but of course without an entry, right? We were looking for shorts. But again, as I told you, we have this range, manipulation lower, and right now potentially we are about to distribute higher right there. So I would say that this level right there, which is 1.0650, could be a potential target. And then potentially what we can do is drop the daily range like this. And as you can see, 50% perfectly resonates with the break of this level. So if we tap above this level, then we're potentially getting into a daily and weekly short zone, right? The weekly could start from here as well, so we can have two ranges, and then you can see this zone is where the 50% is. But again, this is a little bit longer term, so let's focus more on the short term as day traders. Where do we think the market could go this week? Well, I'm gonna call longs, right? But of course, the market is bullish. But as I told you on the DXY analysis right now, there is a rumor. I'm not precisely sure if it was official that they said that they're going to hike the rate, but they pretty much said if needed, we're going to be aggressive with the rates and also hike them. And I do think this is where this happened, right there, these two big bullish candles. And then of course we can see that the overall market sentiment immediately changes, right? So we had, of course, the market started a little bit sloppy right there. We had a nice push, then we have a pullback, beautiful, right? So I was looking for the longs right there, but unfortunately, nope. Massive pump into the highs. So right now, again, we have a kind of a confirmed trend. We have this break of structure right there. So what we can do is drop this little higher time frame demand. Yeah, so pretty much right now, again, we are responding from this zone, which again could be a catalyst for a pullback. Because have a look, we have 3 candles into the highs, right? Even, yeah, I would say 2 or 3. And right now we're in this very nice and simple correction, right? Pretty slow. So what I would expect is for the market to open bearish, pull us back into the zone, right? Potentially 1.05 would be a nice level to retest, although I would not really require from the market to go there because we are just about tapping 50%. And as I told you in the Dixie, we can just straight start pumping higher because we're already having a little bit of a shift sentiment going on right there, right? So Friday was actually a sell day. From right there, we manipulated above the Asian high and we started selling off, but you can see not very good sell off. A nice long right there that I actually didn't take from right here. And I was looking for shorts on that day. It was provided right here. My community took it down there, but I had an alert at this level, which later tapped, but then it didn't provide an entry. I haven't prepared my trades because there is one trade that I took. I'm not sure where. I think I took a long somewhere right there. And I'm not sure, but it was a loss. It wasn't a break even. And yeah, so pretty much nothing to learn from my trades this week. So I didn't prepare them therefore. But yes, pretty much if I summarize this analysis, it's pretty simple this week, which I really like. If we start with a nice push into the highs, starting to break structure right on the 50-minute, on the hourly, then of course I'm gonna continue trading higher, right? Trading with this overall trading sentiment. And of course, if we start with a bearish move to the downside, that will be lovely because then what I'm going to focus on is to potentially seeing the shift, taking a long and then targeting this high. Okay. Just again, disclaimer, the market can just go lower, right? We can start to plummet to the downside, which we can see on Monday. And if this happens, of course, we flow with the markets and we adapt because again, it's not important to predict, but it's important to react and to what is happening in the markets. Okay, so again, stay tuned for the Flow with the Markets Tuesday, and let's see if this textbook setup is gonna play out. Let's have a look at EJ, which could be a little bit of a tricky pair, basing it on the correlation between Euro USD and USD Yen. So right now, again, as I told you, we're having an overall bullish Euro USD, and I do think USD Yen is also starting to flip to the downside. We maybe have to change up the order a little bit to first actually cover USD Yen and then cover all the JPYs. Maybe something to do for the future. But I do think that USD Yen is starting to push to the downside, which might introduce more bears on the JPY pairs. However, if for example Euro USD is bullish, right, as we have seen it and we potentially forecast it to go bullish, then this one might actually end up consolidating a little bit and having difficulties. Okay, so let's actually examine it on the lower time frame. We still have this weekly range, we still haven't pulled back towards 50%, and what we also have is an inside bar, which is really good. So again, if we ask the question, where do we think the market could go next week, right? Well, according to me, I see more bears on this one, right? I see a bearish candle right there, inside bar. Bearish candle right there, inside bar. So can we have another bearish candle right to the downside, taking out the low of this one and tapping into 50%, right? But expecting a bearish Euro Yen in a bullish EU market, right? A little bit tricky. But of course, if USD Yen commits to the downside, then we might actually have it. And again, if we are objective, and let's not overthink about correlation. Okay, what is this pair doing? Well, we have this massive pump into the highs. This was the last higher low. We have a first sign of a trend change, right? We have a pullback, lower high, boom, confirmed lower low. So what is this market doing? It's going down, right? Well, we had very recently, well, pretty much this week, the market started right there on Monday, kind of indecision, big bullish candle, big bearish candle, right? Pullback potentially. So is this a lower high on the 4-hourly time frame? This is a question, and are we gonna attack the low and tap into 50%? So I am more bearish than bullish on that pair, but then dropping onto the 4H, it's kind of a little bit tricky, right? But again, if you're really objective, I think this is where the market actually initiated the move. Maybe we can drop it even like this, okay? Because what we have is this overall push to the downside. Look at this, it's all bearish candles, right? There is no stop right there to do something like this to then say, this is a break of structure. No, this is when we started the move, right? And all of this is complex correction, right? It's just a pullback. It's also, look at that. So we had overall kind of 3 candles to the downside, and if we count those, could be a little bit more, but just look at the correction, right? It's very corrective. Then we have this sharp spike into the highs followed by a very immediate sell-off, which what it did, it also caused a trend change right there, right? So then we had a little pullback, the market failed to push lower. Well, it actually did, but then we retraced back up, another drive into the highs, and right now what we have also is probably on the hourly time frame a new shift of structure right there, right? So everything up until now shows me bearishness on Euro Yen, so I cannot really pair it with a bullish Euro and say that this one might go higher. If we drop to the hourly time frame, what we can see again is the market kind of creating this high and right now starting to shift, and we're already kind of setting up a short setup right there. So if this was like Tuesday or Wednesday, I would short this pair if it is looking like this, okay? But as well, right now it's Saturday, so we don't know what's gonna happen on Monday, so let's be mindful. But I'm calling shorts on this pair, but of course, be aware of USD Yen and Euro USD. If Euro USD starts to pump higher and USD JPY maybe consolidates or fails to break lower, this one might enter into another range, right? So be careful, but of course, if you trade this pair, well, I'm calling shorts. So let's see how this one is going to play out. All right, let's have a look at the Aussies. So starting from AU, weekly time frame, we are currently reacting probably from this little range right here. And again, what is happening on AU right now is that it took a lot of liquidity, right? So we had these lows were already taken by this one, and this one was pretty major actually, but this one drove all the way into the highs to tap probably inside this zone right here. And then we took out this low, and usually what happens if we take a hard time frame low, well, a pullback initiates. And not only a hard time frame, but even on the lower time frames, if you have a new high, well, pretty much liquidity is being taken. So right now we have to pull back, right? This is pretty much usually how the market works. What we also have is an inside bar, which is really good. So we can mark the high, we can mark the low. And if we ask ourselves, then again, what do we expect this market to do this week? Well, I would say we take out the previous weekly high, this one, and the inside bar high as well, right? Which is this one. So we have this wick, which we have to examine potentially on a daily time frame. But again, we have been trading lower for quite some time, and we're starting to have a little bit of a sign for potential bullishness. But again, Aussie dollar is bearish, right? So let's not call too much longs, right? So on the daily, we have this range, and the market is just tapping above 50%, which is really good. So actually long term, I do think that this one is going lower, but we might need a little bit of a spike into the highs first, right? So again, there is this line that I do think can get taken out, and just after taking out this line, we have this overall kind of range. Like, look at this, we have this range and then a massive drop to the downside that hasn't been retested. Okay, so currently, again, this week on AU, we had potentially a nice long right there that drove all the way into the highs. Then we have a pullback higher low, then potentially another long right there. So it provided kind of two longs, right? So hopefully some of you guys managed to catch those longs. Personally, I wasn't really focused on AU. But yes, currently what we have is a little bit of a tricky situation on the 4H. So we are still bullish. We're reacting from potentially this zone right here. We had a tap inside, pushed higher, then we retested it again. We did not break this low, which I would have loved to break as a liquidity gap, then to push higher. So what we have right now is, if I drop to the hourly time frame, is actually a consolidation. And sometimes AU tends to do this, like consolidate a little bit, manipulate, and then potentially go, consolidate, manipulate, go, right? So right now we're throwing a little bit of a consolidation to potentially manipulate higher and then go lower, right? So this could be one of the outcomes. And again, hard time frame, I'm bearish on the Aussie. And again, if we drop to the hourly time frame, well, it's still kind of reacting from this demand, right? And currently we're just in the middle of this overall range. If we drop a range like this, well, yeah, we just responded from the middle as well, double bottom. So let's see what is going to happen. I cannot really call a confirmed bias for now, like tell you, well, I am looking for shorts or longs right now, because I will need to see how it opens, right? Currently, there is no setup, there is no short setup, there is no long setup as well. If we actually pull back to the downside, take out these lows right there as liquidity, then I do think if we have a shift, we can drive higher towards this high right there, which I really think could be a target. Maybe we can even rename it very quickly. But yes, overall, again, as I said, higher time frames are bearish. So right now, this could just be a pullback towards the higher time frame supply areas for us to later drop. Okay, but what is also possible is that we are also turning bullish, because again, we can see the flow from the downside that is coming in. It's pretty bullish, right? We have this push, the market perfectly pulled back 50%, another push right now, so another 50% tap, so we can have another push. And usually again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is usually, and then you can have the ABC and the reversal if we utilize the Elliott wave theory. But yes, personally on the AU, I would give it some time, maybe catch a long if it pulls back right there. But then as we start tapping inside this zone, I'm gonna be monitoring. Okay, because if we close above and if we have another big pump into the highs, then of course we can say that we are going bullish. Okay, so especially in nowadays market conditions, it's very important to flow and just focus on the momentum, right? I really don't do much hard time frame analysis and forecasts, because again, every single day is different. And I might be bullish, but if the market starts with a bearish momentum, I'm going to try to go short, right? Just follow the momentum, right? And AJ could also be tricky. Yeah, precisely the same situation that we had on EJ. So we have this overall range. This one actually tapped 50%. And again, what we have, bearish, pullback, bearish, inside bar, okay? So what could we expect the next week? Well, it's a bit tricky, right? Because we can see this week was perfectly flat. Right, well, not perfectly flat, but yeah, pretty much it. We have this daily push, pull back, right? So we are already at 50% if I drop it, right? It's clear. So right now we are precisely in the middle of this range, right? So do we go short or do we go long? Well, how do we know? We have this wick, which I probably think I utilized in the previous volume for a potential supply. We tapped in on the 17th of May and we actually beautifully reacted. But what we failed to do is to really commit to the downside, right? So overall, this sell candle is the higher low. So pretty much this was our major higher low, which wasn't broken, right? But then we start trying to push higher and we also failed to break the highs, right? So what do we have right now technically is a little bit of a range. And I'm not going to zoom in to really see what is happening right here because it doesn't make much sense. Okay, so as we spotted with EJ, it was perfectly bearish and this pair is also quite bearish. So if AU creates this manipulation and decides to commit to the downside, and maybe if UJ also commits to the downside, then this one is going to flush potentially and attack this low, right? If you're feeling risky, well, I do think we probably might have some shorts going on. We have this zone, then we have this liquidity gap. So right now the hourly hasn't changed yet, right? So on the hourly, I would like to see this level go first before we take a short, right? So right now it responds from this. If this holds, breaks, then potentially retest lower high, and then we can take it lower, right? But this is again overthinking and overanalyzing. Okay, so let's give it some time. The JPY pairs, as I told you, are a little bit tricky, right? Because their main pair, which is the Aussie or Aussie USD or Euro USD, are kind of looking bullish, while USD JPY might go down, which might cause a little bit of confusion. And usually a JPY pair is going to consolidate if there is such an occurrence, right? So again, give it some time. I'm overall bearish. So if we start seeing some bearish flow, we go short. And again, stay tuned for Tuesday. Let's have a look at the NZDs. So pretty much NZD looks a little bit more bullish. Like if we have a look, we're having a nice, what is it called? Tweezer bottom candles, which is a bullish reversal formation. We do not have really an engulfing candle, but it's really good to see the actual rejection. So can we start heading higher on this one? Because again, the NZD has been really bearish, right? Their economy is doing a little bit bad. Yeah, so if I look on the left, we probably retested this week right there, which could be like a high on the lower time frame. We stopped right there, and right now we're potentially about to start pulling back, which is really good. So let's see if we're actually ready to do so, because on the daily, we're similarly to the Aussie. We have this overall daily range that we're currently pulling back above 50%. And again, just because we have a bullish weekly candle, that does not mean we're gonna fully reverse, right? On the daily time frame, what I see and what we're going to see on the 4-hourly time frame is that we're having an overall trend change right there. So this one was a higher low on the 4-hourly. Have a look, that wick, right? And while Aussie dollar is kind of reacting from this wick right now, or was it the AJ? Yeah, I think so. This one is already kind of starting to break above, but yeah, it pretty much looks like Aussie dollar, right? We're pulling back above 50%. We are yet about to tap into this zone, which we also have on AU, right? And overall, the flow this week has been bullish, right? We shifted right there, push, higher high, higher low, higher high, right? So we are currently bullish. And if you ask me about the higher low, it's probably this one, because this is like the last bearish candle before we continued higher. And yes, so right now we are in this overall bullish flow, which again, it makes sense to go long. But again, higher time frame, if you look at the daily as well, we can say that we're overall bearish. And right now we're tapping above 50% and we're about to tap into this zone. So it's really important to see what's going to happen. And I'm going to give it kind of two scenarios. Well, first scenario will be if we start bearish, then I'm going to be looking for longs like this. But if we start bullish, then of course I might start looking for a potential trend change later and go short. Right, so those are the two scenarios. And of course, the third one will be just a continuation higher, pullback, and continuation higher then. Okay, so very similar to the Aussie, they pretty much move together, NZD and the Aussie. Well, not very much, they have like a little bit of a difference. But yeah, I am giving this one some time. I'm not calling a specific bias on this pair, but again, I showed you the outcomes. So let's see how the market is going to open and if we can actually follow any of those scenarios. You can see the hourly time frame is kind of bullish. So if we actually break above this one, maybe we can do something like this as well. But if it starts like this, then we are already tapping into this zone on the left. So we can start seeing a lot of selling pressure kicking in. Okay, so again, it's very important to give Monday some time to develop, to really show you, to let the market show you its hand. And then of course we strike afterwards. And again, NJ, pretty much the same, right? This one almost looks like it, yeah, it actually definitely crushed below 50%, retested the wick right there. So on the daily time frame, we're having the same situation, right? So right now, what we have to see is the daily start to create bullish market in order to say that the weekly is also reversing, okay? But we don't have this yet, but probably the 4-hourly time frame is starting to shift. Of course, like AJ, we're having this supply right there that the market reacted from, but there is a big but. We failed to break below this major demand, higher low. We have one right there, but this is not major, right? This is part of this move, this little slowdown right there. Just because we broke this one, that does not mean that we have broken the higher low, right? Because for me, this one is it. If you also go to the line chart, this is the V shape, right? This is where it is, right? So we actually tapped inside, then the market tried to respond from supply right here, and we're currently responding from it, but I can see that the buyers are stronger, right? We had the sell-off, push, pullback, higher high, higher low, and I do think we might actually continue higher, going from this wick, which could be potentially an hourly level of demand and higher low. which is it right there, right? And you can see right there that there is a chain going on of higher lows. So you have push, pullback, potentially push. So I would expect that this one to continue higher, and I don't see the shorts, right? I do think that this one can continue higher, which again is a big differentiation. We had Euro JPY first, which was super bearish. AJ was kind of 50-50, and NJ looks more bullish, right? So again, what I'm gonna tell you, well, follow the flow as long as you're until you're wrong, right? Currently the flow is overall bullish, right? So we can have a higher high, then go long. If then it fails, break structure, then we go short from here, right? So this is a scenario that we can have. But again, as I told you, the JPY pairs are tricky. So let's go and examine USD yen right now to actually see the overall flow of the JPY market. But again, technically this one should be bearish. We have 50% pullback on the daily. We're responding. Yes, we haven't broken structure, but what we have also is this push, corrective pullback. So is it possible for us to go lower? Well, we have to see. Okay, so let's give it some time. Let's wait for some structure to set up. And of course, guys, you want to go with the trend. Don't try to catch a top right now. It's not ready for shorts, right? Better wait for the market to shift. Then you're going to catch higher lows. You're going to get higher lows, right? Lower highs in this case, right? So give it some time. Let's see how it's going to open. And hopefully we get some clear bias on those pairs. Well, looking at Euro Yen, which I'm actually probably gonna move before all the JPYs, so we can actually get a better view of how USD Yen is doing, and then to potentially try to build a bias around the JPYs. Well, we're having 2 bearish weeks right now, but look at those bearish weeks, right? They're not really bearish, right? Where they pretty much resemble the last 2 bullish weeks, right? So we're having an overall kind of equilibrium right there. And we are yet to see what's gonna happen, right? A lot of moving objects we have right now in the all economies, right? So what we see right now is this kind of complex correction, right? It's bearish, but also technically we are still within this demand, right? So we had a push, pullback, then it actually took out this high, right? Which might invalidate a few things, but because if you consider wicks as breaks, which again, it's a little bit 50-50, then you can say that this one is a break of the last higher low, and then you can say that this one is again a break and a confirmed lower low, and also confirmed bearish trend. So then what you can say is that this one is a lower high, so we have to short from there, right? Of course, we can also think of this in this case, but again, what is right and what is wrong? Well, nobody knows, right? It's all about your edge and how you do things. Well, what I see is bearish momentum. If I just jump on the 40 time frame and just look at the candles, right? Look at the big bearish candles coming in and the momentum to the downside, and look at the upside, right? Very slow. Look at the momentum coming down. Look at it up, right? So I do feel like the USD JPY can potentially flush lower, which is going to bring all the JPYs down, right? Euro JPY is setting the best. Aussie JPY is also good for shorts. NZD JPY not that much, but if this one commits to the downside, then I do think we can have some selling pressure in all of those pairs, right? So again, a lot of you are trading USD yen, so let me know your thoughts. I think we are bearish right now, and just technically, if I just remove everything, what is happening right now? Well, the market broke structure right there. Where is the major lower high? Well, it's this one, right, which we're already retesting. We also have this one on top that hasn't been clearly retested. But again, if I just drop a range like this, I would love for the market to pull back towards this zone right there and flush. So there you go. You don't even need weekly and daily to drop a bias. And of course, the disadvantage of not looking at weekly and daily is that sometimes your 4-hourly time frame is going to get invalidated. Like you're looking for shorts right now, but this can happen and you're like, oh, why did this happen? Probably because there is something on the left on the daily and the weekly. Take your loss, then just keep flowing, right? Because if you try to do too much weekly, too much daily and all of that stuff, you might get confused between different biases, right? And then you might end up doing nothing, right? So right now we keep it simple. There is a 4-hourly time frame. It is bearish. So if we have a push into the highs at the beginning of the week, I will be interested to take a sell from right there and look at those beautiful flat highs, right? Those one will be really nice to get taken out before continuing lower. So I'm calling shorts on Euro Yen for now. For now, imagine that just Monday opens up and blows through the roof, then we shift the bias. Okay, so let's see how Monday opens. I'm very curious. Give it some time. Let's see if USD Yen commits to the downside, because this is potentially going to dictate what the game will be for all the JPYs, right? So stay tuned for that and focus on USD Yen. All right, let's have a look at the GBPs, starting with the monster first, GBP USD. All right, so we are having an overall bullish weekly candle, all right, but does that mean we are reversing and we're going to travel all the way higher, right, towards 50%, towards, let's say, 128? Well, I don't think so, right? If the momentum is down, the market is going to continue lower. And if we maybe try, so look at this, we have this push, one candle, and then we continue going lower, right? And I do think we can find numerous examples when the market has just pulled back by one candle and then it continues with the overall direction, right? So just having one bullish candle does not mean we're going to continue bullish, but I do think it's possible, right? It's definitely possible. So let's see what happens on the daily. And this one right there is a big roadblock for GBP USD, because if this one is really gonna stop price from pushing higher, but if we break this zone right there, then we can potentially continue going higher. Okay, so we're starting to see a little bit of a shift on the 4-hourly time frame, right? We had it since there, we had this huge wick, that was some sort of news. We flipped to the upside right there, we had a pullback, which was a very nice 50% pullback, right? We got a long potential right there. Right now we have a push, so we have a new higher high. Oops, what am I doing? There is the higher high. And yes, right now we're just staying in right there, which is a pretty bad positioning of price, because you can't go long too much close to the higher high, right? Usually you would like to buy a higher low, right? And you can't sell it yet because there is no sell setup, right? I had this zone that the market actually tapped inside, reacted, but look at the reaction, right? If this was going to reverse from there, it should have flushed, right? First we tapped inside, gathered the orders. Right now we're coming in, gathering orders. It's gonna maybe come in again, gather some orders, then potentially eventually push into the highs. So I'm really curious to see if this is going to happen. Okay, so currently we have a little bit of a shift from here, which makes, I would take this candle the higher low, right? So if we start bearish towards this zone, similar setup to Aussie USD. If we start bearish right there, tap inside, I would be interested for longs. But if we start with a push into the highs, then I'm gonna just watch, right? I'm just gonna watch to see if we're gonna have bearish sentiment introduced to cause even a break of structure, or are we gonna pull back and then continue higher? Because as I told you, we had the first orders right there, we had the second orders right there. Maybe we can have the third one, but then potentially it's gonna fail if the sentiment is overall bullish. Okay, so nothing too much to mention. Again, as I said, there is not an immediate setup, right? Right now it's chopping around, which is really good. So again, choose setups, either a push into the highs or a push into the lows. Depending on this outcome, then this is going to decide what we do, all right? If we start with a push to the downside, I will be interested for longs. But if we start with a push into the highs, then again, as I said, we wait. So let's see. And again, stay tuned for the flow with the markets Tuesday. GJ, kind of tricky. Again, it's a JPY pair. We are also having an inside bar right here. This one really nicely pulled back. This one nicely pulled back, all right? So if we even drop the FIB, I do think we even reached like the extreme Fibonacci levels. 705 towards 786 and 705 bucks right there. So again, can we expect a push into the highs? Well, I don't know. Depends on UJ, depends also on GU. And again, this is why I don't like JPY pairs, because oftentimes you can have like what's the word? USD yen, for example, and GBP USD are not synced, right? And usually this results in a chop on the JPY pair, right? So right now, if GBP USD actually goes higher, but if UJ goes lower, right, then this one might chop in a little bit, right? But of course, this is correlation. We can just simply focus on the technicals. A little bit tough to determine this one. We had this supply, the market very nicely pushed into the highs, tapped into level like this. It's not a very clear level right there. It's probably this, it's kind of a zone, right? Then we push into the lows, and what we have is the market actually respecting the higher low, which we have across numerous JPY pairs as well, okay? What we have right here is a very little sell, what is it called? The drop base drop kind of supply. Tapped inside, reacted, tapped inside again, reacted. So if we commit pushing into the highs, then I do think this can also turn bullish alongside with GBP USD. Okay, so we can have something like this, because what I like about this one is that we really flipped into the highs, and we have this kind of same scenario of range, massive expansion lower, push into the highs, and right now we might be like, it even looks like a head and shoulders, you can see, although it's a little bit not very clean, right? But I would also give this one some time, okay? Maybe even possible to start with a push to the downside, although I don't think so. The JPYs are already kind of establishing a bullish trend. So yeah, curious to see what's gonna happen on this one. But if we break above this level, which we have been taking orders for 2 times already, similar to GU, if we break above, then potentially I think we can attack this inside, a mother candle of the inside bar, which is right there. Okay, so let me know what you think, guys, of GJ. Did you manage to catch any nice trades? We pretty much, yeah, we started with some very nice bullish momentum. So if you catch the long right there, that was insane. Maybe then you shorted it right there, and then pretty much I think yeah, around Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, not the best to trade. All right, so let's see what happens next week. And of course, this pair is just awful. We had a push higher, push lower right now. So is it bullish? Is it bearish? I just don't know. Right? You know that I hate Euro GBP if you have been watching it for quite a while. But we're currently tapping into this zone right there. We had a response, but we only had a response, not a commitment into the highs. And right now we have a bearish daily candle. And if I drop to the 4H, this is probably looking quite bearish, right? So we had the same thing right there. Consolidation, manipulation, push to the downside, right? And right now we're creating a bearish trend. We had a little bit of a liquidity grab right there, which created a lower high. We kind of retested the lower high, but in a very shitty manner. You can see it's very flat, right? So I would love to maybe see a nice pump into the highs like this, and then a drop, right? So this is how I look into this. I'm looking at it more like from a bearish perspective, just judging the 4-hour time frame. But of course, this daily zone can also hold, but I just don't understand this one. It's of course a pair to judge the momentum between Euro USD and GBP USD to determine whether the euro or the pound is stronger. So I'm really not trading this one, but of course, let's see how it goes. I am overall bearish on this pair, which means that the euro is bearish and the pound is strong, right? Again, tricky pair, according to me. But those are the GBPs. Again, expecting overall bullishness on both of them, right? It's not ready yet, but I'm expecting overall bullishness. So let's see if this is going to commit. And this is also going to be supported by the bearish dollar that we had a look at first, and also a potential bullish euro, bullish Aussie. So let's see if we can get a little bit of a risk on perspective this week. Let's have a look at GODI. Well, we're having a bullish candle again, but as I told you on all the pairs, a bullish candle does not mean reversal, right? What I really like is that we actually went towards 1800 and we kind of dipped a little bit below it, but not by much, right? And we're having a response right now. So it's really important to judge whether this is just a response or is it going to be a potential reversal. From this low, you can see we went all the way down to revisit the lowest level right there, which is a very good level because it also grabbed a little bit of liquidity and then caused this massive rally to the upside. Okay, if we zoom in on the daily, maybe I can remove the pip. We are still bearish, right? I don't see a clear reversal yet as long as we stay below this level, which is possibly cleaner on the 4H. Yeah. So we have this overall bearish flow. You can see lower lows and lower highs being created very nicely. And if you zoom in, we have first signs of a potential reversal on the 4H, right? So we have it right there. There is the first break, right? We also had a break right there, but this is pretty much a break of one level. Like this is one push. What I need to see in order to confirm a trend is this, which we had, right? So we had the first break, then we have a second confirmed high, which is really good, right? Which is really good because we kind of retested also this zone right here. And right now we have a new higher low right there. And yes, the market is retesting this zone right there, but you look at the retest. So we tapped, reacted, tapped again, reacted. It's just taking out the orders in order to potentially push up. And as I told you in the last analysis on the pound pairs, I do expect potentially some risk on perspective, which means potentially a bearish dollar and all the other kind of major pairs increasing and probably even gold jumping a little bit higher. And I do think, guys, it's a good price to be buying gold, right? We declined quite a lot from the top. Right, so we are currently, yeah, well, not a lot, 13%, but I'm not studying gold a lot. I'm not sure like what is the average, right? We can see that from here we plummeted 19%, right? An average pullback is around this, right? If you have a look at the majority of the pushes, like they are in the region around like, let's say 13 to maximum 20, which this one was extraordinary, right? So right now we're having a big drop. And if you kind of judge this one as an investment, well, if I was investing in gold, this one will be a good price to buy. Okay, we're having a shift on the volatility time frame, which suggests bullishness is coming in, right? So if we start committing into the highs and probably break this one, then I do think we can just start following the bullish flow. Okay, so I'm starting to see gold pushing up a little bit, changing the bias. So let me know what you guys think. Can we expect bullish gold for next week, right? And do you think we can potentially reverse from right there? Or do you think it's just a short-term rally in the bearish market, right? Let me know, but I would expect this week to be bullish. Potentially, again, I'm not sure of the outcome. We can start with a bearish bias like this and then push higher. We can, of course, continue higher like this and then retest this zone and continue higher, right? Of course, we can also consolidate. So let's wait and flow with the market. But overall, I'm just going to put it in there. I would expect some bullishness. The indices are continuing to extend their losses, right? We are almost entering into a bearish market also in S&P. Nasdaq is already there, and also US30 has a little bit more to go in order to reach that 20% mark, right? Which is, yeah, US30 actually has a little bit more space to go. But of course, right now, as I told you in the beginning, inflation worries, interest rate increasing, and of course, right now we're seeing the stocks actually come back to their mean values because they were pretty overvalued during the crisis, and this is mainly due to the Fed, right, feeding them in, pouring money into the economy. Right now the Fed is taking it back, also increasing the rates, which of course we can see the immediate result of the stock market, which of course is a good thing to get back to the mean value, to buy a little bit more. But of course, guys, it's a little bit scary, right? Because we have inflation right now, everything is more expensive, our portfolios are being destroyed right now, right? My portfolio is really down right now. It's really down, and I'm losing like bigger amounts every day. But of course, if you just log into YouTube, every investor is like this right now. So again, it's a good time to buy, right? Weekly time frame, well, another bearish candle. There is a lot of speeches about a potential short-term rally into a bearish market, because right now we have been extending lower a little bit, creating a daily lower low. We can see we had a lower low right there. We pulled back for 3 days just before actually extending the losses again. And right now we are potentially again at a lower low and retesting the very extreme zone right there in US30. So I would maybe expect a shorter term retracement. We can see the profit taking going on Friday right there as well. But yes, potentially just pulling back a little bit towards the zone, creating a new lower high, and then potentially continuing in the losses. We can expect that short-term rally, but don't get too excited. I do think we still have a lot more to go to the downside, right? I don't want to be a pessimist, but it is what it is. So Nasdaq, as well, as I told you, this one has entered into a bearish market a while ago. Tech stocks, we have tech stocks that are down like 80%, right? Look at Zoom, look at Netflix as well. Things like this. But yes, we're tapping into this very strong zone right there, and we can already see kind of some wicks being thrown to the downside. And again, we can expect a little bit of a short-term correction, because yeah, we are officially in a bear market right now. And also what I read in an article is that the volume is not very big, right? So there are not a lot of people speculating right now on these prices, and it's just like falling down. It's like a recession. It's just a bearish market. There are not a lot of people like pouring in volumes right now to actually be buying the market. So it's not like a short-term fear or a short-term crash. It's more like a bearish market, right? Which is kind of, yeah, it's not very nice, but of course it's good to know this. So yes, right now we're tapping, creating again a new lower low. We have this lower high right there, and we also have this two potential pullback areas, right? So if we pull back towards this first one, potential shorts. If we break this one, we can extend all the way higher right there, right? But then we can expect, of course, another leg lower. Maybe there is going to be another bad news that is going to send the market lower. But of course, as I told you, tech stocks are really starting to get into their mean values. So maybe we can start consolidating a little bit, but pretty much thinking of the economy and everything, I do think we can continue dropping lower. Of course, the stock market is not a determinant of the economy, right? Because of course, for example, a company can be doing extremely well in a stagnated economy, right? So of course, but we pretty much link the stock market to the overall economy, right? Nasdaq is down, making a new lower low. So let's see if we can get a new lower high to potentially short this guy once again. And yeah, US30 also extending the losses this week, which is really good. I haven't bought yet. I should have bought maybe on Friday right there, but I'm just waiting, right? I'm just waiting for 37, a potential level where I really want to start buying bigger amounts, right? So currently we have a lower high right there. We also have a lower high right there. I hope it doesn't pull back that much towards this one, because then another drop, oh man, come on, I don't want to have this. I don't expect something like this, right? This will, I really don't want this, like a 12% increase right from there, because we tend to have those short-term rallies into a bearish market, right? I just hope it continues going lower so we can start buying a little bit more, right? So this is the last supply, right? If this one breaks, then of course we can start seeing a little bit of a shorter term buy, right? But of course, let's see how it goes. If we start with a bearishness, I would be looking to invest a little bit more and start buying the index as well, because again, we are a bit extended and I do think we can have a little bit of a correction. Also seeing it's been spoken about a lot in the news, right? So let's see if this happens, or we straight continue to flush to the downside, right? Looking at crypto, there is nothing too much to comment on crypto. We pretty much had that last bearish week, and right now if you look on the daily, well, we pretty much are having since the 13th of May, we're having 8 days of consolidation. So again, nothing too much to comment on this one, guys, right? We had a big crash, so right now the market is just chopping around. I am not commenting on anything because I'm not trading this one. I'm not investing in it right now, right? It's very tempting to put another in, but you just don't know whether this one is going to continue going lower, right? Probably the next bull cycle can take a while. We can see it usually tends to consolidate quite a lot before kind of making another leg higher, right? Not to say this, I don't think we're gonna have this sort of right there from 2018 all the way towards like 2019. But yes, we never know with crypto what's gonna happen. And again, I say this every week, but I just don't like these assets because again, you cannot really judge them. It's like air, right? It's mainly driven by supply and demand. It's not like a company to go and analyze balance sheet. No. It's just price, right? And of course you can invest in like projects or something like crypto projects. I don't understand those things, but pretty much again, guys, nothing too much to comment on. What are we having right now is just a range. I'm looking for some momentum. If you are intraday trading this, well, of course, yeah, hourly 50-minute time frame, definitely do so. But I also think that this one is risky because yeah, we're just in the ranging market right now. We took out tons of liquidity, right? Ethereum still has some space to go towards tapping 1700, but yes, kind of slowly moving lower and lower and lower. So yeah, I do think you can keep shorting this guy, but again, not throwing any opinion on crypto simply because I do not understand it well enough. But yes, I would expect for this one to continue dropping lower. It's big fear right now with crypto as well. A lot of people have decimated their portfolios. So until I start seeing some bullish market, I'm not putting anything in, right? So again, stocks declining, crypto declining, and currencies are starting to get a little bit more of a risk-on perspective, which could be good. So very interesting week is ahead of us, guys. I do think we have some nice setups, especially on DXY, Euro, Aussie as well. GU could also continue going higher, getting a feeling of a little bit of a risk-on perspective that could be temporary before we get any kind of announcements or maybe like a continuation of this crash fear and stuff. So of course, make sure to have your plan. Make sure you're also patient because we're trading right now in unique times, right? A lot of people are making a lot of money, but a lot of people are also losing a lot due to the volatility. So my biggest tip is stay patient. Again, wait for your setup, and it doesn't matter if you don't see your setup a whole week, which I did this one. I just actually took a break, like from Friday, took a full day off, and I'm just waiting for my setups to start coming in because this is when I'm gonna make money, right? So I wish you an amazing weekend if you're watching this during the weekend, and I wish you a crushing week ahead of you, and stay tuned for the flow with the markets on Tuesday.